G'day, guys. Welcome back to Supercoach with DR, and welcome to a very, very special podcast. It's Supercoach season, but we're not talking AFL yet. We are talking BBL. You know this legend here that I'm with, Spills, my man. How you going, mate? Excited, pumped about the upcoming BBL season, my man?
Oh, absolutely, mate. I've been bloody counting down the days and can't get enough of the World Cup either. It's been really good to watch. How good are the Aussies, mate? I knew we'd get there, and Virat Kohli, he choked, and it was great to see Pat Cummins just stump him. Absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe there was a stadium that could hold 130,000. It was just a sea of blue.
Crazy.
We went over there and silenced them. But now the real task is on, mate, the BBL, and real special guests on tonight as well. And can't wait to pick this bloke's brain and just chat all things BBL. First ever BBL podcast that I've been a part of, so should be good. And none better to do it with like yourself, mate. The Saw Play boys are gonna get straight into it. Janif's not here, but he's not really a big BBL super coach, so leave it to us, mate. We'll carry it.
Speaking of the great man Janif, he's actually been into his NBL super coaches. A few of us boys have, mate. I know you haven't really jumped on the train there, but we got, Causa and JP and lots of great blokes. Damo's right into it as well, SDS as well. So we've got a bit of a crew going with the NBL, mate. But as you said, here to talk BBL. Now, I'll tell you what, our special guest will join us soon. Whenever his little fella will allow him. Tough when you got kids, mate. I can relate. You can't relate to this, Spills. You're a young bachelor, mate. You're a young bachelor. You'll get there one day.
That's an understatement.
The old dad like me, I can absolutely relate, mate. But I tell you what, this bloke we're about to introduce very soon is a 5-time top 750 finisher, mate. So I tell you what, if you're talking about experts in the game and brains and minds that you want to tap into, this is absolutely the bloke, mate. But for our agenda tonight, once we introduce our special guest, he's going to take us through a deep dive for the fixture. This is crucial, Spills, as you know, mate. Making sure you're up with the fixture, who's got the double games. First ever time we've got a triple game, which we will get into as well, the Brisbane Heat. But super important, mate, to take a deep dive into that. Make sure you are planned and prepared as well. He's also going to take us through some player availability because lots of tournaments going on during the BBL. So players may be coming in, coming out. So super important to make sure you are up to date with that. We're going to look at all the relevant players that do have triple or double game weeks. We're also going to talk about a bit of strategy, mate. When it comes to break evens, do we focus on making money or do we just consistently swap our premiums for those from a single game to a double game week? What's the balance like there? We'll tap into this bloke's brain about that. Pick a pod. I know you've got one in mind, Spills, or maybe a couple there, but we'll see who you've got in mind. Don't think many coaches are on this man at the moment, so we'll talk about that. Then a bit of bargain hunting, mate. So which players are at that price where you just cannot say no? They're just an automatic selection due to the value. Traps, just like AFL Supercoach, mate. There are some traps. Tanner Bruin, I'm looking at you. So who's going to be the Tanner Bruin of BBL Supercoach? I'm not too sure, mate, but hopefully we can avoid that. We're going to talk a bit about captain strategy, mates, and then finish off with talking about how many stars can we start? Because we know that they've actually got the bye come week 2. So that's going to be interesting as well, mate. So bit of strategy, bit of banter as always. I'll give you a clue. This bloke is a Collingwood fan, a mad Collingwood fan. So I actually wasn't going to invite him on, to be honest, Spills, after what the Pies did to my boys. But as he would be, I'd be celebrating hard, mate.
He's done some really good work, Nathan. This is why we got Nathan on the podcast, because there's none better in a BBL context. He knows what he's on about, and he's just made some elite data that'll really help us out for the season, and not just the fixtures, but also the availability of players, which is something that me personally I've always struggled with. Like, when is this player playing? Is he going to be in a test? Is he? There's so many different cricket tournaments that happen over the summer. It's quite hard to keep on track of. So, a massive kudos to Nath for preparing this for a potty, and just really excited, mate. I just can't wait to have him on. So it should be good, man.
And here we are, mates. Here is our special guest. Now, some of you may know this man, Nathan Scoble, aka Scoby Bryant 36 on Twitter. Thank you very, very much for joining us, legend. How are you on this wonderful evening?
I'm very good, mate. No, thank you very much for having me here. It's I know it's a bit of a delayed effort, but we're all here. We got here, and yeah, let's talk some shit, I guess.
Pumped to have you on, mate. And I can, as we said, I can relate to what it's like to have kids. Spills can't live in the bachelor life, mate. Sometimes kids make our decisions, don't they, when we're available or not? But, mate, we just really appreciate you giving us the time, mate, because I don't want to give you too much of a big head here, Nath, but 5-time top 750 finisher. He was very modest when we were talking pre-podcast. Said, a lot of luck, all the rest. Way too modest, Spills. This bloke knows what he's talking about. He's what I would refer to as an expert. So pumped to have you on, mate. But look, tell us, you're a Collingwood man. Have you come down from your high yet, mate? Or how are you feeling about the footy still?
No, honest answer is no. Just because, as we spoke about before, everyone loves to see Collingwood. I guess, to put it lightly, shit the bed. And it looked like that was going to happen.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of Carlton fans that would have been absolutely crying with joy if we had a lost.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But no, one of the best days. One of the best days.
No, enjoy, mate. Enjoy. Very, very jealous, but definitely deserved it in the end, mate. But look, tell us, you're right into your cricket. Who's your BBL team that you actually support, mate? Because I'm pretty sure you are president of a particular player's fan club. Do you support the same team that this bloke comes from?
So it's an interesting story. I've been called a turncoat before. I've been called a lot worse actually. But it all started. I was a huge Phil Hughes fan. RIP. But so he was with Adelaide. So I've always been Adelaide through and through, even though living in Victoria. A lot of people think that I go for one of either the Stars or the Renegades, but honestly,
being a Victorian,
can't really relate to them. And this will be a bit shocking. I'm not the biggest fan of Eddie Maguire either, even when he was our president. So that was a bit of a turn off.
We don't like him.
There we go. Yeah,
don't get me wrong. He did a lot of things for the Collingwood Football Club. He did a lot of things that were probably below the table as well, a bit dodgy, but which, I don't mind that. But yeah, so it's definitely Adelaide and
corrupt.
Yeah. I was trying to beat around the bush. But I reckon it's 100% Adelaide, and it's also Hobart actually, just purely for the fact that Ricky Ponting is he's everything. That man, when that man says jump, every cricket fan should say how high.
Good old punter, big punter fan. Excellent, mate. Very
absolutely.
Good to see.
Had all the old kookaburras, all the kahunas, all that. Just tried to be like punter. Clearly was nowhere near that. But yeah, it was always good to head to I think it was called Etihad back in the day, when the Hurricanes would always play the Renegades there. Go and see him. That was fantastic.
Very good, mate. And I tell you what, I'm going to get this up here because this man here, Mr. Matthew Short, we can see here, mate, there's a bit of a signed Guernsey here. So I believe that you are a big fan of Matthew Short. How did this all come about, mate? Just love the way he goes about it.
So I've always been into my cricket. That's undeniable. But I've always been into, I guess, like to pride myself on knowing what's going on, who's coming through. I don't like to be thinking. For instance, if they name a squad, who's that? Just having no idea regarding it. And so always kind of knew his name, so to speak. Playing for Victoria and whatnot, always used to check the scores and everything. And then there was a couple of seasons he played for the Renegades, and then obviously they didn't offer him a contract. Went to Adelaide.
Yes.
And then always kept an eye on him through basically, I guess, what it was back then. I can't remember, but like the Marsh Cup, Sheffield Shield and all that. And he was always in and out of the side, middle order batsman, bowled, a few offies, whatnot. And then I started getting into my BBL. And at this point, he was at Adelaide. And I think I could be wrong, but it's when Carey and Head were both picked to play for Australia. And that kind of left a bit of a hole in the Adelaide Strikers top order. I can't remember who the other opening batsman was, but something happened to that. Yeah, I think it might have been Jake Weatherold. I use the term opening batsman lightly because I've never really rated him. Only at the Adelaide Oval. He can't play anywhere else, but he seems to be allergic to making runs outside of South Australia. But yeah, and there was all these pictures going around on Twitter, and I think I could be wrong. Bryce Mitchell, actually, he's a huge Strikers fan. I think he was down at one of their training sessions.
Okay. Great Bryce Mitchell.
And they I don't know if you guys know this, but what they tend to do is they have, I guess, the opening bats, middle order bats, and then you've got your bowlers, your quicks, your part-times, your spinners and whatnot, and they get segregated. And apparently Matt Short was in the top order. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Because I wasn't too sure what was going on. Don't know if he picked up a contract, to be honest with you. And then checked his BBL price, and he was 62.5k. And there was all this conjecture about, is he going to open? Is he going to bat six? Is he going to bowl? And I thought, oh, we'll go with it. We'll go with it. So we put him in there just as a bench loop. And I don't know what happened. He just when and I say this lightly, when the rules were good, I'm not a fan of this strike rate bonus at the moment, where they've got to make 20. Back in the day, you could make 19 off 4 balls, really, and you still get your strike rate bonus.
Yeah,
and his price just went sky high, absolutely sky high, and it was just it was really nice to just see this. Well, at the time, this kid that's, I guess, been shunted or pushed out of the Renegade side due to opportunity. And to be fair, I guess he didn't show enough. But then to go to Adelaide, get the opportunity, and then he's played for Australia since. It's just been really nice to follow that. And I guess the bowling's increased, and I was huge on him as soon as I knew that he's going to be bowling 3 overs, he's going to be opening the batting. I mean, that's the easiest lock. Like that roll is just as you said, absolute gold. And just knowing that, backing yourself in, there's nothing better when you back yourself in on a player, and then everybody's got to jump on them. And
absolutely,
so that was
great, especially when they're a pod.
Oh, absolutely, and like everyone's. You try and fill your bench with players that are going to actually play and whatnot, or you might have enough here and there that's just a loop. But that break even was just so negative, and the cash just kept coming in. And you think, do you trade this week? Do you trade this week? But the points, it's just sky high. And then ever since then, exchanged a few DMs on Twitter and whatnot, wished him luck for everything. And then I cheekily asked, is there any chance of a jersey? And honestly, I was expecting nothing, absolutely nothing. And he goes, yeah, mate, no worries. This is my management. Just send an email in between the business hours. And so I flicked it through, and I thought, I didn't think anything of it. I got home from work one day, and my fiance, she said, oh, were you expecting a package? I said, no, I don't know what you mean. And then I was thinking, and then I opened it later that night. I was just going, holy shit, like, that's fantastic.
How good is that?
Absolutely fantastic. Wow. Yeah, no, so it was a wonderful little surprise.
Wow, mate,
but I think,
that's crazy.
What a ripping fella.
Yeah, no, and absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I think we can all agree we like our sport, we like our AFL. Particularly myself, I'm just AFL cricket orientated. But for someone, and don't get me wrong, he's not, as we were talking about, like a Ricky Ponting, but for someone, just to take 10, 15 minutes time out of their day to set something up, I think world needs a bit more of that.
100%, mate.
Yeah,
100%. He's gone up in my books after hearing that.
Well, and like, don't get me wrong, I know everybody's got their own things going on. You got personal lives, everything like that. But it's been a few interactions when I was little with Collingwood players that you just think, like, looking back on it, you think, do you wonder if they had their time again, they might have handled that a little bit differently? Yeah, it was just nice to, well, first of all, have something as awesome as that. Never been worn. We still need a frame for it, but it's probably going to have to go next to the Collingwood Premiers 2023.
Oh,
So we've
shit,
got up.
geez.
Yeah,
Oh.
so yeah.
So
I had
another
to get
drive-by.
Collingwood in there again. Just a little drive-by. Yeah. Well, let's get into this now. Nate, you've just talked about how much of a fan you are of Shorty. Now, we had a look pre-podcast. 36% of sides have currently got this man in their team. Are they nuts, mate?
Yeah.
Given the fact he's got a single and we've got so many other teams on a double and even the triple with a heat?
Well, personally, he's about 170K underpriced. So
There
it's
we
value
go.
for money. Nah, but I just think we talk a lot about value, and I guess it's all about your structure. I like to think of it. I think Brisbane are extremely overrated. We don't know the availability of their players. They're on a triple game week, as we all know, and I think there's 4 other sides off the top of my head that are on doubles.
Yep.
And I know 244K is a lot, but I mean, it could be hindsight. It could be end of the season. You think if I had started this bloke, I would have been absolutely flying. But I just think there's a lot of value options. And when I talk about value options, ones that are like actually value, because you can have a bloke that, bats 7, bowls 2 overs, and he might be, 90K and he's value. Whereas you've got some blokes that are just like, especially in that Scorchers side, even in the Renegade side. I mean, Maxi's like sub 120K. That man should be 95% owned. So if you're going to go with that 144K, the only 244K for short, not having a double game week, is you'd want to nail your round 2 trades to set you up for the future. If you can bank on absolutely nailing them, then you're flying, because everyone's going to try and get him in. So instead of having 3 trades, you'll have 2. If you want to use a boost, you're only going to have 3. And I mean, there's no perfect number for players on a double game week or triple game week, but I just think it's not so much is he worth it, it's do you back your planning in. And I know things can change, but I think the better players, I mean, the bloke that's won it the last 2 years in a row, Diabolical, he has this theory where he breaks up the fixture into 3 components. And instead of picking players, he picks price points. And so it's, for instance, if you've got your top echelon price point players where, say, 230 plus, you've got Richo who's coming off an injury, Short who's not on a double. If you're picking them, that means that your round 2 trades, you've got to nail them. Because 244K, like that's not peanuts. You can basically have 4 Sammy Whitemans at that price.
But if you're locked in like someone, like you're locked in like a Richardson or whatnot, but then you flip them to short in the next game, like you only use Richardson for his double, and then you targeted like a Matt Short for his double, if that makes sense, rather than picking a Matt Short on like a single, and then like there's that sort of like route too. There's plenty of ways to go about it, actually.
Oh, absolutely, there is. Like. And it's going to be hard as well, because you've got like, I mean, Adelaide are the only team that's on the double in round 2, but then they got to buy straight after it. So like if we exclude the wicket keeping bench spot, because you let's be honest, you wouldn't touch Harry Nielsen with a 30-foot pole, would you? It's just like it's no go. Like you don't even comprehend that. But then you've got 2 bowling spots and you got 2 batting spots. So if you want to keep short, that means you've got 3 other spots for players that need to play. And they need to play. And ideally, you want good bench cover. So that's what I talk about, like your planning. It's so important to not just, the biggest myth ever is team projections. Like, I'm sorry, but no one gives a flying
Oh,
fuck
with these
about what your
ridiculous
projected score
projections.
is.
Yeah.
Like, it's. I really question why they have them there. It just gives this false narrative about how good these players are when we all know it only takes one rock and you're fucked. Like, if you're Spills, as you said, like if you're using Richo as an example, they've got back-to-back buys in round 4 and 5 and then head into back-to-back doubles.
Mm.
So, like,
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
if you were going to start Richo, ideally, I mean, you've got to make sacrifices to get the best players in, but ideally, you'd work it if you had, you know, 2 of the Sixers boys that are high priced, like say a Curran or an Abbott. You'd hopefully flick one of them off, and you've banked, you know, 15K. Then you can go to short in that round 2, and then potentially go back because Sixers don't have a buy. I know they don't have a double, but if you're looking at all the like the fixture and everything, you got Brisbane. Brisbane are fairly irrelevant till round 7, I'd say. I mean, I think their team is extremely overrated. Like,
Oh, it
they're going to be
is.
decimated.
I think the
Absolutely
Renegades
decimated.
are where it's at. They're the ones that because they've got the double the following. Don't they? They got the first one and a single and then
They're
another double.
5 games in 3 rounds. Like,
Crazy. So that
And I think unfortunately, double-edged sword. Zampa did so well in the World Cup. I think he was an absolute lock to begin with, like seeing that fixture. But you'd almost prioritise Renegades over the Brisbane Heat.
yeah.
It's so hard. Like,
Agree.
you can look at it. You could have, for argument's sake, 6 Heat players. You could have, and then fill the team with double game week players. But then, I guess what happens if Short does go bananas? You could have 2 players that have played the triple game week, so 6 games, times that by 2 because they've got the double facet of being able to fielding and batting. But then Short's got 1 game where he may, well, I assume he's going to bowl, he's going to open the batting, fields in good positions. That's only 2 compared to 12. He could easily outscore them.
Oh, for sure.
Very
See,
good
I'd grab
points.
Short for his double and then trade him straight away. Like, I'd actually just sideways because, like, how often I think it's happened 2 years in a row for me where at the end of the BBL season, I've had too many trades left after lockout. So I think, like, the more aggressive, the better. So if Richo was fit, you go like Richo and then Matt Short, and then you go to like a Rogers or someone that has the double the following week, like one of those renegade players that you didn't have, and you just like keep being really aggressive with that number 1 player price wise. So yeah, I'm not sure. So are you starting Matt Short, Nathan, at the moment?
At the moment, he's not in my team, which literally my heart is bleeding saying that out aloud.
No, that's all right. Like, no, it's logical because I can't really. It's hard to justify paying that much for a single.
How many? Ideally, by round 3, you want to have no Brisbane Heat players in your side because why would you? And Adelaide, if you're going to keep some, like I think one of the biggest bargains of this whole series is Khan, like Rash. You're telling me 100. Another point. Man averages 91 against Brisbane. 91.
Nuts.
Like that. I'm fairly sure it's in his last 3. Like that's insane. As I said before, that could be more than one Brisbane player.
Oh, absolutely. I think you've got to start him. You've got to start him because you know he's on the double the week after. He's absolute value. Like, he's Supercoach royalty when it comes to BBL. So I'm all on the Rashid train. So he's starting for me 100%. 100% he's starting for me. Then he's just going to come on. Spills, you starting Rashid, mate, yourself?
Oh, he's locked on my bench for the following week.
Yep.
Got a loophole going on with a particular Stars player that I'm a bit nervous about. So I want that second chance. And if he shits the bed on the first Thursday night, then we'll safely field Khan as that fallback, very defensive. But puts me in good straps for the following week. I think you definitely got to have Short and Rashid on your bench. I think in preparation for the following week. I reckon I'm building my team around that. I think it's as good a preparation you can have asked for. Because I got no strikers players on field, so yeah, they're the two that I'm definitely looking at.
Can I ask why Darcy Short? What is the allure?
The price. He's cheap as chips, and he had a pretty sour year. Like I don't know if he was carrying an injury or if he was just playing on low confidence, but like this is a player that was like ranked first or second about 3 years ago. Like you got to ask, what has happened to him? So, and he's pretty highly owned. So, like in a weird way, he is a bit of a placeholder. Like whether I start him or a Fraser McGurk or like a Whiteman, it's kind of up in the air a little bit. But like just in preparation, he does have a double, and I guess you get that second chance with him as well. But yeah, he hasn't done a whole lot in the last year or so to be selected, has he? What are your thoughts on him, Nath? Because he's very highly owned.
I'm a bit torn, like as you've just mentioned, and what I'll probably reiterate, like this was a bloke that you could bank on a 120 plus score for like till the cows come home, but it's literally like he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like you know, you've got an apprentice out there that's trying to screw a bolt in. That's got no clue what he's doing. He's just, I don't know. Like Hurricanes had to do something with him. Moving him down to the middle order, I think that's. I don't care what anyone says. If you're an opening bat and you've been as good as him, opening for Australia and whatnot, and you get moved into the middle order, your ego is taking a massive kick in the face.
Yeah.
And the role changed. Like he's not going to bowl for Adelaide. I highly doubt it.
Nah, he won't. I think he'll be a all duck no dinner type setup in it. Like he's just gonna bat, and he's got no chance. Like if he's out, he's out. Like unless he takes a catch, but it's not like Matt Short, the GOAT, who. He can spin, he can bat, and he's really good on the outfield as well. So like he's the ultimate all rounder, like from list clogger to like the best all rounder in BBL currently. But Darcy Short, like he's absolutely fallen off a cliff. Like I avoided him all of last year, and that's probably got a lot to do with why we had a very good season.
Yeah. No, going back to. You said price point. I think there's another bloke in there that he's around the same price. And if you just had a look at his, not so much, BBL because he's played before, but if you didn't have the names there and you just looked at the stats, you'd pick him over Short any day. Henry Hunt.
Yeah.
He's same price. And if I've had this conversation with a few people, if Short hadn't have done what he's done at the Hurricanes and he was just, picked out of grade cricket, Henry Hunt would have him absolutely covered. Absolutely covered. So I think he's actually a 2K more, but he has opened before. I don't think he will open necessarily, but just around that price point, like I see it as two ways. Short's cheap enough just to stash on your bench, but then I think about it. What happens when you need someone to downgrade to?
Yeah,
good.
You need the cash down, and if Short does nothing, then you're stuck with a dead rookie when you've already got like people looking at that Hurricanes loophole as well. I certainly am. So they last year one or two. I don't know his name, but like last year,
Chowdhury? Is I've probably butchered the pronunciation.
Oh yeah,
Chowdhury?
I'm not sure. There's only one player. Like he's the only 40K, and he's got DP. So like, let's say you had him and a Darcy Short, and then players with their buy. Like essentially, you've got 2 or 3 non-scoring players, which in a BBL format, like that's not good. You don't want, like last year, one BBL is a dead rookie. That's why it's risky taking a punt on a genuine loophole. So, I hope Darcy Short can break through. But this Henry Hunt, I heard much about him. So hopefully Do you reckon he's in the
He-
best sort of 10? Like, do you reckon he gets picked?
Oh, this is the thing that I don't like about the BBL. We're very name orientated, and that's when I say
Oh,
we.
absolutely. Absolutely,
I
mate.
don't mean
Yeah.
I don't mean supporters, so to speak, or fans, but like perfect example was Melbourne Stars picking Harry Brook. Number one pick. You have all these elite players to pick from. You cannot tell me that no one has had the thought, hang on, England may pick him for an ODI squad that goes to the West Indies that coincides with BBL. Now, is that
terrible move.
Yeah.
like, I
Such a
don't know.
waste.
And you can pick. You've got this talent pool of literally all the players that nominated. Yet they pick him, and it's just like, well, he was in the World Cup squad. Then he was basically out because of Stokes, and then they ditched Jason Roy basically to bring him back in. And it's just like, well, they clearly think high of him. So he's going to be, he might not be in the team, but he's going to be in the squad. So why take the chance? We're so fixated on names. And it's just like, as I said before, if you just blacked out the names and you had just statistics, you can't tell me that Darcy Short not bowling, he's gone to another club. I don't think he'll open because I dare say he'll bat top 4. I assume it's going to be Lynn and Matt Short. And then it's just like, well, he's 67K for a reason. So
It's very true.
Yeah, like, and I know
It's
it's,
like
it's
year of Philippi as well. Like, I think he was about 40%. I anti-potted him basically all year, but he didn't even have his double. So before round 1, he was like well over 40% owned. But because it's Philippi, like, yeah, he didn't have a double, and he was just bloody coughing it up week in, week out. And then he's definitely relevant now because he does have a double, and I'm locking him in at his price. He's had a howler of a year, but like, you're paying top dollar for Philippi of single. So it's the same sort of case with like Matt Short. So yeah, it is very name orientated because it's Josh Philippi. Same sort of reasoning, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like Sixers, it's like their fixture is fantastic. And additionally, like Sixers and Scorchers, they're just quality setups. Like they don't, and Scorchers a perfect example of this. They don't just go out and pick names. They pick needs. It's not, I hate to use Harry Brook as an example again because he's done nothing wrong, but
Buggy,
why on
Harry.
earth? Yeah, well, I mean, he's a pom, so he can get fucked. But why on earth you have the entire player pool and you can select anyone? Obviously, bids can be mashed, but why pick him when you know that there's a significant chance of him being a no-show? And then you've got to scramble to sign someone.
Yeah.
Like Scorchers, I'm fairly sure they passed in the opening round for 2 years in a row. Because they're bringing local talent through and they just know what they need.
You respect that, don't you? You got a lot of, and they've been such a successful franchise doing it that way, haven't they, mate? So
they just like, you look at their bowlers, and that's why it's kind of annoying. You've got Richo, Perendorf, Ty, Kelly, and it's
crazy,
just
isn't it?
Like Richo last year. There was no way I was picking Richo coming back off that injury, just because I'm conservative like that. But he is just, I'm fairly sure he just bowled absolute wheels, and he just got wicket after wicket after wicket, and it gets to a point where you're kind of advocating against one certain player because you don't have them, and you didn't have the balls to go for that player, and it's hard like that. But
it hurts.
Like going back to the Sixers, I mean,
Big day off for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was dumb enough and
went with tagged. Jump on him.
Sam Mitchell taking preseason games.
Yeah.
Sammy Mitchell taking preseason games seriously. Absolute wanker.
Yep, wanker. I'm with you, mate. Absolutely with you. Well, I'll tell you what, Nath, I'm going to switch the screen up for a sec, mate, and put this up because I tell you what, this is absolutely elite work here. mate. So what we've got here, and we are just on YouTube at the moment. We are getting on Spotify. That will be when AFL Supercoach launches. But everyone will be able to see this visual on YouTube. But not only, mate, do you have the actual fixture here with the triple games, the double games, and the buys, you've also got this availability fixture down the bottom here. And you've got, it can change. So it certainly can change. We're not 100%, mate, on certain players at the moment. We can have an educated guess, and information will come to us over the next couple of weeks. But can you quickly take us through this, mate? Maybe starting with the fixture up the top there. Who do we look to actually start in our sides? Because if we look for the first 3 rounds there's the Renegades with 2 games, the Stars with 2 games and a bye, a couple of other teams on the single double. So how many Heat players do we go for, mate? Can we overdo it? Tell us through this, mate, and what this is all about here.
I, like most of us, I think we're all excited for the prospect of having a triple game week, but you look into it and you just think like Spud, yeah, not bad. Spud. Are they going to play? Gun, Spud. And it's just like all their bowlers is up in the air. Like you've only got, well, at the moment, the only bloke that I think is guaranteed to play is Paul Walter, who's left armour from England. But Poms don't traditionally tend to do too well in their first season over here. But it's just so hard. You've got the PM's 11. We already know Renshaw's going to be playing in that. Who else they pick? Then you've got the test matches. It's so hard. So Brisbane Heat have gone from the team to pick from to, like, if you've got 4 including a loop of 1, if you're going 5, I reckon that's way too many. I always like to bring it back, as we spoke about before. The teams that, like, they've been there before, they know how to do it. They've got good players. So I think there's, like, Sydney's fixture is just fantastic. No buys, double game week, can set it up. They've got price points for batsmen, bowlers that are just so fluid. If you don't like that or something happens, you just change it. There's no dramas. Hurricanes are completely irrelevant besides probably the 42K. And I think it's Chowdhury. DPP. Could be used as enough.
McDermott on the bench, and that's about it.
Yeah. I see another one.
That's another name one as well. You talk about like the names being overrated.
Oh, this is interesting because I've got Benny McDermott. I didn't think too much about it.
He dominated for Queensland a couple of weeks ago against Tassie. He smacked like 130, I reckon. Like, it probably wasn't that much, but like his form's still pretty good despite like the price point. That's another like really good discussion. Like, what are your thoughts on McDermott, Nath?
It's just that price for someone that, like, there's 2 opinions. You either have him and he's going to make you cash, or you don't have him and he's a downgrade option and you're going to get that cash anyway. Like, let's be honest, is anyone actually going to play Ben McDermott on field when you have 4 teams on a double and 1 team on a triple?
Not to mention, he doesn't have it until round 7, so it's kind of like,
it's just
you're gonna hold him. You're gonna hold him all the way. It's more cash gen for me. Like, just slot him at that, and then loop him on his buy if he's got it. But that's like ambitious. So when is his buy? Because it doesn't even really.
Nah, they don't have a buy.
They don't have a buy.
Hurricanes and Sixers don't have a buy. It's basically it's kind of like the same fixture, just flipped around per se, and moved out a couple of weeks. But honestly, I reckon you want at least 2 from the Renegades, max 2 from the Stars. Scorchers, take your pick because they're all elite. 10 for Sanger and probably Daniel Sams are the only ones you're looking at from the Thunder. But all right, special mention.
I'm actually not sure about McDermott at the moment after looking at that.
Well, it's hard, isn't it? And I guess, but what can you do with 88K? Unless you've got money in the bank, where are you going? You know he's going to play. I think he's the captain. I could be wrong. Wade could be the captain. Actually, I think it is Wade.
Yeah,
that's
Wade,
like a little dwarf. Yeah.
You probably go Whiteman over McDermott, and then you could target.
Whiteman is the easiest 62.5K you'll ever spend on it. Like, he just made 137 literally yesterday. He's going to be opening the batting, you would presume. More of a knock it around type operator, and just let the others go absolutely berserk around him. We'll know if he's not going to open. He's just, I think the communication from the Scorchers has always been fairly decent. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll have something from that.
So, currently at this stage, I've got both Philippi and Whiteman in my side. Let's just say that Whiteman is confirmed to be opening. Would you consider actually fielding him over someone like a Philippi? Do you genuinely think that Whiteman is fieldable for his double in round one, mate?
Oh.
You chuck Philippi on your bench and see what he does on the second match.
It'd be you'd have to have balls to do that. Okay. I mean, there's nothing against it. I can't remember. I don't think there is a non-playing wicketkeeper in the game. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
No one's on the bye first round.
Nah, you'd have unless you used a Melbourne Star player like the following week. But the first week you probably, or you could use that Hurricanes bloke, the 42K. You could flip him up as the batting and then utilize him as a loophole for. But I think that's the only way. I don't think you could do it any other.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it'd just depend on form. Like, Philippi's done absolutely fucking nothing lately. Absolutely nothing. I mean, logically, going off form, Sam Whiteman's a pick easily. But how many people are actually going to do that? There's a massive difference between saying, I'm going to.
But if that works,
yeah. But then again, what happens if Philippi goes
bananas? It worked. Like antipod in Philippi all year, and I think I was just laughing every single week. I remember I come down to DR's joint. I think it was like the second round, and we watched a few BBL games, and DR's just tearing his hair out, quite literally, watching Philippi just go out for peanuts, and I'm just kicking back all smug, going, I don't have him, so I knew this was going to happen. So you just never know, honestly.
Just looking Philippi, at a few numbers, and it just seems to be like he feasts at the SCG. Absolutely feasts there. He averages 57.5 from 25 there.
Wow. Okay.
So if he's not making those runs, he's clearly taking the catches as well because they've got a quality bowling lineup.
Yep.
And I mean, and to be fair, I guess something that doesn't get spoken about much is they've got good spinners as well. Like I know Nathan Lyons moved to the Renegades, but you've still got Todd Murphy there. I can't believe it. You've still got Stephen O'Keefe, who's literally older than the fucking Queen. So, I mean, she's long gone.
Still on their list.
But it's just he's going to get stumpings as well. And those, late at the innings when you got the tail order, he could make 30 runs off, say 20, and I don't know how many points that is. So that's 40-ish strike rate. And then he gets 3 stumpings, bang, you're up to a 75. 75 off one game. So, like, what? It's hard like that because either way, I just think the worst thing you can do is go with someone else's advice against your own. If you truly believe that Sam Whiteman is going to outscore Josh Philippi on the double, then go with it. Because at the end of the day, if you get it wrong, you blame yourself.
That's right. Exactly right, mate. Exactly right.
There's nothing worse than you think, I was going to do this. I was going to do that. Well, fuck it. No one cares. If you were going to do something, that's awesome, but you didn't. So, stop whinging.
Yes, absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing something and like sticking to your guns about it, is there any sort of pods that you're locking in but might tail off from come round one? Like, I've always been fascinated by these blokes who are in that sort of 5% echelon, like these real smokies that is there anyone that you're sort of looking at? Like, who's one pod that you reckon that you sort of maybe just go around and like drop a pod, like just one pod. You don't want to give away too much.
I reckon. Oh no, my team will change 100 times before lockout.
Yeah.
I just think never pick a pod for the sake of picking a pod. Pick a
Yes.
pod because you actually believe that they can do something worthy of having a spot in your team. I don't think, as you spoke about ownership, like it's all. I know some people that in other fantasy games they will not pick players that are over a certain ownership, and that's great because they're just taking the piss, having a good time, they're playing it for fun. But if you want to get a little bit serious about it, never pick a pod just so you can say, "Oh yeah, but I've got a pod." Again, no one cares.
You gotta have your boy, like someone that you've been like just focusing on flat out. Like I've got one that I'm bloody super hot on, and I've got the stats to back it up. So it's not going in blindfolded, but you wouldn't go picking like some random bloke just for the sake of it. Like,
well, I was looking at that when this triple game week stuff got announced. I was looking at the heat. I'm thinking they've got all these players, barely any standout besides Renshaw, but chances are he's going to play 1 out of the 3 games, so instantly no. And then I was thinking Nisa as well, no. So Renshaw, Nisa, nah. You're thinking, all right, what about the bats? You've got Munro, who will either make 30 off 10 or be out second ball, so it's dicey. You got Josh Brown, who's literally the same. Then you've got you got Nathan McSweeney, which really, really, I just like him as a cricketer. His technique is absolutely flawless. The way he presents the bat is just fantastic to watch. And he's been bowling as well, making runs for South Australia as well. So he's obviously in. And then you get to like Billings, and then you start going down the order, and then you see a name like Jimmy Pearce, and you think, oh, fuck, there's no way he's going in. So you keep going, and then I thought, well, who have they drafted? Like, who'd they pick up? Who'd they sign? Paul Walter at 105K, and I just scrolled past it. Literally didn't batter an eyelid. And I know that Englishmen do not do well in their first year over here. Because it's very rare that they do. You got Chris Jordan that literally bowls meat pies for a fucking living and still gets a contract. Don't know how. And then I was just thinking, have a look at it.
Yeah, I heard that one before, actually.
Yeah.
Meat pies.
Absolute fairy bread shit. And so this bloke, he comes from England, played at Essex, wasn't did all right in the 100. So I dug through his stats and whatnot, and it seems that he was always, I guess, 4th or 5th rotating bowler. But what they seemed to really like about him was that he'd bowl at the death over the other bowlers, and that's why his economy rate's a little bit high. So he goes for 8.9 runs and over on average. He's got strike rate of 17, and he averages 25 at the ball. So you're not getting, prime Jai Richardson. But for 105K, it's all right. So have a looking at his batting stats, and you see that he averages just a tick under 22. He goes at 144, and he's going to bat 5 or 6, and he fields in good positions. And he's a left-hander. I don't know any other player that is a lock to play 3 other games for the Heat. Yet this bloke that has no ownership. I just thought, I just kept thinking
That's a great pod, isn't it?
Kept thinking, it could turn to shit. But as we spoke about
BBL though, that anything could go to shit.
It is.
That's BBL.
And I guess because he's a Pom, I don't want to pick him. But then I think in game cricket, you're either batting or you're fielding, and the blokes that can only bat, well, they're hampered. Blokes that only bowl, they're hampered. You want the ones that bat and bowl, or keepers, for instance, because they get catches, stumpings. But this bloke bowls, he bowls at the death, and he's going to bat 5 or 6, and he can hit a ball
triple,
as well.
So he should score something.
So he's got 6 chances or 6 opportunities.
Yeah.
To do
it's not like
something.
Brown, where once he's out, he's done. He's not going to score a thing like Josh.
Yeah, and that price point's enticing, but I'm just not. It's nice to have, as we spoke about before, your projected goes up because, they're adding in another game, basically.
That's false hope, bro. That just doesn't mean anything.
It's false advertising. It's a
It is.
load of shit.
Oh,
So
Al should get rid of that. If Al's watching, scrap the projected score. It means buggery.
it doesn't. It's. I know some people like to have it because they like to, I've got a higher projected score than you, but it's just like, all right, awesome. And that's the end of the conversation.
I'm not gonna lie, when you're playing AFL Supercoach and you captain a bloke who's got a projected score of like 160 and you see your projected scores like in the 2.6s, it is looking pretty sexy, but like it's unrealistic. You're never gonna hit it. Like it's just not going to happen. I don't get why it's a concept in Supercoach, and BBL is even worse. I mean, projected score of like 120 because you got a triple, but he might come out and score 20 and do nothing for 3 weeks or 3 rounds. You wouldn't know.
Absolutely, and like it messes with price projections as well, and then you got the break evens that come into that, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But honestly, he's low risk, very, very high reward. So yeah, I'm starting to warm to him. I didn't realize that his numbers were so good. But I'm probably at this stage. It's just nice, have him on the bench, loop. If it goes to shit in the first, like we get to see 2 heat games before we see Scorch's game.
Yeah.
So he could be on 25 after 2 games, and it doesn't matter. He could be on 150, and all you've got to do is just make a switch.
Yeah.
So love it, mate.
I'm gonna lock him in. Yeah.
What about yourself, DR? Who's a pod like 5% around the mark? Who you really tinkering with? Who's your man, mate?
Look, I haven't really got anyone around 5. My one, probably lowest one's McSweeney at 10%. Nathan already went through it. Going to bat, put some overs in, playing well for South Australia. The other one is Joe Clark, who I'm considering for the Renegades. I think he's about 8%, mate. So not quite your 5, but I think he's a talented type player. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to bat. Would you say that Marsh would open? Possibly.
I actually reckon Joe Clark would probably start. Like personally, like he's in some serious form. You see what he did round 1 for the Stars. I just had my hands in my head. Or it might have been the second round where I reckon he played the strikers in Adelaide, just tore him to shreds, like nearly turned up. So, like he's a bad man, and he's someone that's really adapted to like Australian conditions. So I like Joe Clark as a player. He's not on my team, but he's in the discussion, that's for sure.
I was just when you said if he's going to open or not, I think he might not open but I highly doubt he'll be batting any lower than, I guess, if you want to be extreme, any lower than 4.
He's in the top order. Definitely
I think. But then again, I mean, Sean Marsh could do both his hammies picking the soap up in the shower. I mean, that bloke is as old as sliced bread. So you'd think that it'd be De Kock.
You got De Kock, yeah.
Yeah, De Kock, one of Marsh and Clark, and then Finch would be 4. But then again,
as well.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, Fraser McGurk, they changed the lineup so much. He could, he could easily snag an opening spot, and they just tell him, just go for it. Just don't worry about anything. Just
over McDermott, I reckon. Fraser McGurk. Like,
what's that? Sorry, you cut out.
Oh, sorry, mate. I reckon Fraser McGurk, he's someone that I reckon you could pick over McDermott if you flipped Whiteman and then you went for a McGurk, someone that you can actually utilise because he's got those 2 doubles. But that's not a bad shit.
I mean, and you bank 20K as well.
You bank 20K and you actually get to use him. Like, as you said, mate, you nailed it to a T. You look there on the Hurricanes. I mean, you're never going to use McDermott. Like, and cashing in BBL, like, it levels out, like, sort of halfway if you're doing really well. I've had times where I've had, like, nearly 300K in the salary cap. I didn't know what to do with it because we're just flying. Yeah. Like, sometimes it goes your way. So you don't even need to start him, do you? Bit off topic, but, like, just going back on that.
No, I just think I just think we get so fixated on names and like recency bias. And I know last season McDermott was shit, but the season before that, he was absolutely fucking electric.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then you think like I like to go back to even if they may not be, I guess, that top echelon player, like price point wise, I'm talking, not I guess stature in the game, but you talk about like a Sean Abbott, who, I mean, if you don't have him, it's shocking watching Sydney play, and you don't own Abbott. He
He's
can
so
swing the bat.
good. He's so good.
He's such a good fielder, and he
Oh.
just gets wickets. Like they play at the SCG. Like Abbott was literally the first pick player in my side. And looking at numbers, playing at the SCG, the man average is 72 from 26 games. 72.
Like
So
English,
good,
yeah.
That's
For me last
crazy.
year.
Like that, and this bloke isn't even over 200k. Like if we're talking about value, I know he still costs an arm and a leg, but that's value right there. If you're talking about price and points per price, it's just like blokes like that. I think they just select themselves. I mean, it's all good, as we spoke about. It's all good and well to I mean, you feel like the smartest man on earth when you pick a pod that's 3% owned and he comes out and goes absolutely bananas, and you feel fantastic. But then, what about the other 9 times out of 10 where he literally just eats shit? Like, there's a reason some of these players are not picked.
So this is you guys are probably gonna like laugh at my face, but this is someone that is ahead to me. He's ahead of Stoinis. He hasn't left my team barely since. Can
I guess?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Is he from the Stars?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is it? Sorry about that. Is it Bo Webster?
No. Nah. Oh,
I would never have guessed this.
Harris Ralph.
Oh, that any. I know this is off topic, but any bloke who turns his back on their country is a fuckwit in my eyes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know if you've seen the news today. Yeah, but he basically said, "Yeah, I'm all good to play the Australian tests," and then next day he told him, "Nah, like workload management." And he's come out and he said that he's all good for BBL. So, in my eyes, bit of a dog of a bloke. But 125k. He's I mean, he's not the 42k bargain basement that he once was, but
no.
I can understand the pick. I mean, I haven't really considered him just purely because I guess this comes back to fixture again. I mean, at the moment, if you've got a loop and you're starting 2 stars, you're not going to have a bench come round 2. Now, that may work out perfectly because I can only assume that anyone with anything going on up top between their ears is picking Maxi. So there's one spot now.
Like 2 stars, one in each line that work as loopholes for the following week. So like you'd have Maxwell in the batting, and then you could use Ralph in the bowling as that Stoinis. But I don't think you could have 3 of them. Like the reason I like Ralph so much is because like I followed his form a bit, and he was like 4 for 19 against Bangladesh, like in August when they had the Asia Cup. Like he was electric, and he consistently bowls around. Like he's over 150k, and that rattles blokes in the BBL. Now, I just, as a Stars man, like it is a bit of bias. I look back at that hat trick he got in 2019 and go, "Fuck you, beauty, bring that again." So there's a bit of uncertainty, and whether or not he's a good bloke, I'm not sure. I haven't really followed him off the field too much. That's a valid point, but I just see him as like a real nice pod, and like I'm just trying to find like reasons why I shouldn't pick him because even though he's got that bye, he provides a really nice loophole the following week. Like
the NDHP, mate, no dickhead policy. Apparently.
No dickhead policy. Yeah, that's right.
There's a reason.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard. It has backfired a little bit with your DeGoeys of the world back in the day, and who else is there? There's a couple of others. But
you're right. I mean, Geordie Geordie's a premiership hero, but he's fairly lucky to be on a AFL list at this
Oh,
current time.
he's turned it around, mate. Well, yeah, I love
Big
Jordan.
game player. Big game player.
Yeah.
You know, in the games,
No,
you know.
I mean, talking. I think going back to that price point, why? I don't know how much you've got in your bank, but that fixture is just a killer, and I don't think he's going to pop. I mean, he could, but I don't think he's going to pop straight into a buy, so to speak. And then obviously he's got the double, then they got the single, then they got another double. But what's like if you've got 15K in the bank, what's holding you back from picking, say, like I assume if you've got Zampa, what's wrong with, say, a Majib, or if you're talking about sixes, use some DPP. You could get, I don't know, Henriquez in, who he just is so consistent. He always seems to perform. I don't think he'll bowl much, but he's consistent. I mean, if as I said before, if you're set on picking someone, it shouldn't matter what outside noise you hear. It should just be, I like him. I like what he does. I like what he brings. Price point, he fits in. So I'm going with it. And I guess this is why Supercoach is so good, because no one's opinion is right unless you win it at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
I haven't won it before. I know the bloke that won it last year won it the year before as well. So he's probably the one to listen to. But I don't know. I just 125K going straight into a buy, and especially if you are going to start a loop, that instantly you got two non-playing players come round.
I wouldn't start a loop. I wouldn't do the loop, because he would be the loop for the following week in the bowling, and then I'd work out, like, I'd have two players as their single, and then Ralph would be that guy. But I can see your point of view, because I can afford a Zampa, because he's not, like, a bit controversial with you if you've locked him in. But I haven't. He hasn't. Like, I've definitely considered him, but it's not until his current form in the last couple of weeks or even the last week, where I've thought, yeah, maybe I should really start considering him, because there is you play BBL a lot with your heart, where it should be your head. Like, yeah, Zampa, he's a former Stars man, so he's just someone I've been pretty happy.
Yes, yeah,
pretty happy to overlook. But in current form, mate, like, yeah, there's no reason why he shouldn't come in for Ralph, and it'd probably be even more safer. I can't afford it, because he's only about 5 or 6K more. So
yeah, I think
I love him.
I think Zen is at 131 point something. You spoke about the Asia Cup, and don't get me wrong, he performed well in that, but might be a bit dirty. But I think you or I could
lately.
Yeah, I think you or I could perform against Bangladesh, and I'm fairly sure he was the first bowler to concede over 500 runs in the World Cup.
I saw something like that. We were talking about that a couple of hours ago, DR. His economy is just rubbish.
Like, don't get me, he bowls absolute wheels, but you think, like, some of these grounds, I mean, I don't know if they've got any games in Geelong, but that thing is, it's tiny. It's like, it's the circumference of your house. I mean, when you're looking at the area of it, it's just a tiny little circle. And obviously, the faster the ball comes out, the faster it can go away. But yeah. And I guess this is why Supercoach is so good, because at the end of the day, no one's right or wrong, so to speak, because you can have players that, until you trade them out, you don't lose any value.
That's exactly right, mate. Exactly right.
So
now, you did just mention about the captains there, boys. So, Nathan, are you actually starting with the loop yourself, mate?
It's going to be hard, because I'm extremely tempted by it. That's only if I'm only going 1 star, because I can see a round 2 where it's like I can't do the trades that I want. For instance, a short, you probably look maybe a renegade, maybe another striker. So I'll start 2 strikers. So then you'd have 4 for a double game week. That sounds it's all right. It's not overkill. It's not too minimal, but I don't know. It all comes back to structure, because if you want to, for instance, I know some people that you've chatted to that they want a loop on each line. You have a loop on each line. You pick two stars. You got a non-playing bench in round 2. So it's difficult. Like it all comes back to structure. Like everyone's got such a different structure, and they might think, well, Renegades play the most amount of games up until round 4. Let's just get heaps of them in. Completely prioritise them. Go back to Brisbane Heat. As I said, even I was basically infatuated by the idea of having that triple game week.
Yeah.
And you just think triple game week, that instantly means points. Absolutely. But then you start thinking about it, it doesn't. Like you can pick 6 Brisbane Heat players, and they've got 3 cracks at it. So you've got 18 scoring opportunities, double it if they're all rounded. So 36 of them. But then you could buy round 3 if you had
though, because like without Nessa and like even Munro's a bit of an iffy one. I mean,
well, that's what I mean.
Who are you VCing? Like if you don't get Munro or Nessa, like who are you VCing out of the Heat players? Because obviously it's a VC player with his triple, but like who are you? You're going to VC McSweeney? You're going to VC Billings? Like that's one thing I sort of been. Or would you just avoid a Brisbane Heat VC, even though they got 3 games?
Honestly, I think it's tough. Like, if McSweeney is going to be bowling, depending on their lineups, if he's going to bat 3 and bowl, it's probably going to be him. That's obviously if Nice is not available. But then you think they could chop and change. Like, you got a bloke by the name of Jack Wood. I don't know if you boys have ever looked at him. I think he's like 4% ownership. They added him as a bowler, but then I think they may have done a little bit more research and actually realised he's an opening batsman that bowls as well. He's 62.5K. Opens for Ipswich. He took 4 for against the Pakistan A team. Now, I guess depending on how highly you rate the Pakistan A team, well, you'll come to, I guess, your conclusion on that. But there will be someone that is just so completely random that in 3 games will have 250 points by the end of it. And it'll be someone who's picked him because it fits their price point, and they've just gone, well, fuck it, he's got to come in because I like the rest of my team so much.
Yeah.
But if you're not going with a loop, what's the point in having a VC? You're just going to straight out see a Brisbane Heat player?
You'd first game, like as you said, you've still got another 2 shots at it, and then like I don't know when the Hurricanes play, but if the Heat get 2 shots, like 2 games, and you VC to Munro and he's gone off his head, you might even insist on trading in a loophole just so you could bank that VC, like because it's a rolling lockout. It is a rolling lockout. So you can do that, but it's a sticky one because you obviously want to use your stars players as loopholes the following week.
That's my issue because I'm not starting.
Do you bring in a loophole for the 1 week when you got 2 stars players, and then, as you said about 5 minutes ago, Nath, have 3 non-scoring players in round 2 just to bank like a Munro Billings VC? So it's a tough one, isn't it? You almost just want to straight up Captain Abbott, like just get it over the way and just over and done with and just back him in.
I like to think of VC as just a peg at the stumps, really. So, but there's so much better options going around. Like as you said, you can have Abbott. You can have. I'm huge on Aaron Hardy. You can Jai Richardson if you've got him. Yeah. Maxi as well. I mean, you could even have Quinton de Kock. I don't think I just think Brisbane Heat are extremely overrated. But
absolutely, just because they got a triple.
Yeah. But in saying that, there will be like 3 or 4 of them that produce good scores, and the teams that I guess will be ranked extremely high, they'll be the ones that have just nailed those 3 or 4.
Yeah,
like
Sorry, mate. I've got a question. Question without notice here. So let's just say hypothetically, the Brisbane Heat didn't have a triple; they had a double, like the Renegades, the Stars, Scorchers, Sixers. How many Brisbane Heat players would you select if they had the double, not the triple? Like hypothetically,
if they're all available, it'd be one, and that's Nisa.
Nisa.
Yep. But if he's not available, literally,
so it backs up your point completely.
Probably none.
Because you got all these other options. Like if they're the only team to have a double, you'd be different justification. But now you're probably thinking that they are overrated because without Nisa, well, you're not going to pick Billings over Quinton de Kock. I mean, give us a spell. Like that's just not.
Yeah, no. And they haven't really, like all these other teams. They've tried to get really high caliber players. Like you've got Renegades signed de Kock, and he's just set the World Cup on absolute fire. Melbourne Stars, even though I criticised them earlier for Brook, I mean, at least they went for a name. Like at least they've gone for someone. But like again, with like Scorchers and the Sixers, because their structure is so strong and they believe in like what they've built, I'm fairly sure Sydney have got. I can't think of their imports. Rian Ahmed and I dare say it'll be James Vince again. Like they're not household names. Yet Vince
they're not known for that. Like they usually
no. Like Vince averages a tick under 50 at the SCG from 20 innings. Like that's quality, absolute quality.
Yeah.
But I just don't see like what the Heat are trying to do. I mean, there was a bit of excitement around Spencer Johnson, and he's just pulled out of the Indian T20 series because of an injury.
So there's even uncertainty around him. Like, what do you?
You can't go there. You can't go there. Like that's just a no-go. Hammy injuries.
You wouldn't go Spencer Johnson because he's in my team at the moment, regardless of injury.
No way. No. Hammy injuries for a fast bowler that's in the sights of Cricket Australia, that just screams rest and workload management.
Yeah, that's a really good point, mate.
That's just capitals. And the thing that I've noticed lately, it's not like when Richardson came back from his dislocated shoulder, he played his first game for Western Australia just recently. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. He might have played two. But the direct quote was that Western Australian cricket will be under direct guidance of Cricket Australia for his workload. Now, I highly doubt that the Scorchers and Avojas is just going to turn around and go, look, we think he's right. He's playing. If Cricket Australia taps you on the shoulder and says, look, this bloke needs a rest, you just shut up and you do what you're told.
Yeah.
And I think there's, like, I think Richo will be absolutely fine. But in saying that with Spencer Johnson, like, he's so young. He bowls 150 Ks without
there's no reason to
working up a sweat.
Mm.
And, like, if we're talking about Heat, you've got Xavier Bartlett, who's literally just started bowling again. He hurt his back over in the UK, and he's been playing Premier Cricket as a batsman. No, thank you.
Nah, that's crazy, isn't it? Like, he was a premier bowler not even, 2 years ago. So.
And it's just, like, you think, who are you actually going to go to? Like, if Munro's there for the first game, because I know he's got other commitments, but I think the pool of the BBL is a bit higher than other countries. I know that might sound a bit arrogant, but let's be honest. Like, does he really want to be playing in, I won't name the country or the competition over there, or does he want to be in the BBL?
Yeah.
I think he's going to get paid a little bit more here. He's probably going to enjoy his time a little bit more as well. So if Munro's here for the first game, I think great option. I mean, no.
He's the obvious one, but in terms of bowling, they're pretty thin. So,
that's why I've got on. Yeah, that's why I'm on Paul Walter. Like he is going to bowl. He may not bowl full, but he's going to do the bowling. He fields in good
Yeah.
positions, and he's gonna
That's a good
bat.
shout. Great shout under the
But
circumstances.
I just think like, and all these people that have picked Mitchell Swepson, 77K, I can understand that, but he hasn't even been playing limited overs cricket for Queensland. Like it's
Yeah.
always been Kuhneman. I
And
know
they're all
he's
stuck high. So would you pick Koeman over Swepson? Because
absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah. So I think the ownerships are definitely like Swepson's is around 30%. So like he's
Ownership
no
is
bomb.
it's very very deceiving. Like you can have actual guns that warrant ownership, or you can have people that have literally just signed in and gone autocomplete and haven't touched it.
Yeah, legit.
Like I
That's
think
true.
with AFL you get a better idea the closer it goes to, but so many people drop off in BBL. So like if you get a high rank in
Yeah.
BBL, like that's fantastic, but in reality, like numbers are dropping for Supercoach already.
Yeah.
If you get a high rank in BBL, like that's great, like that's fantastic. But how many people are actually playing? Like the playership could have literally been quartered from round 1 to round 9.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
it's so hard. Like that's what like do your own research. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very hard. I like to think of it as a we had a teacher in high school that used to call it the sieve of bullshit. And it was basically you have all this information come through this sieve, and only the stuff that you actually align with and respect gets through. And then that's diluted all the other shit that you've seen online, all the other shit that someone has tweeted or whatnot. And you can actually make decisions for yourself. As I said before, there's nothing worse than when someone tells you, oh, yeah, he's a gun. He's an absolute freak. Pick him. And you're not sure about it. And you do pick him. And he makes a duck.
Yeah.
And you just think,
Why back yourself in? Like,
absolutely. Like, I just think, Heat are overrated. If they didn't have the triple game week, then, I don't think many people would be on them. Hurricanes are irrelevant. Strikers, Rash should be on your bench and probably one of Hunt or Darcy Short. Completely understand if anyone wants to go with the Messiah in Matt Short. Renegades, ideally you want to have 2, maybe even 3.
yeah.
Stars, 2 is, like, in my personal opinion, 2 is perfect. 3 is overkill.
Agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Scorchers is tough because the bowlers are a bit iffy. Sammy Whiteman is an absolute lock, but the bowlers are iffy. Like you could have Richo, Dorf, Ty, Kelly, Lance Morris. Obviously, if they're not Test squad or PM's 11, but they've got such a caliber of good players that they can just rotate.
Yeah.
And I mean,
one of the best depth sides, I reckon.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
But then same with Sixers.
I
think, as I said, Abbott was always in there. He was just picked from the start. And Thunder, I think no one's really relevant there besides Tanvir Sanger as a cash cow. And
just that cash cow. Yeah.
Daniel Sams, just because he seems to, I guess, always know how to bowl that ball or make those quick runs. And he fields in good positions as well.
That's always handy, mate, isn't it? Fielding in good positions. Spills is just gone. See you later, fellas.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened there. He often has some internet ghosts, Nate, at times, Spillsy. But mate, I reckon we've got through most of the agenda here. I tell you what, one point I love that you've raised tonight, and on reflection, I think I've been a little bit guilty of this when selecting my side, are the names. Basing your selections off names. And I reckon I'm guilty of that at the moment, mate. So that is one piece of absolute golden advice that I've got out of this, mate, is to look past the names. I need to do a bit more research because I think it's really easy seeing a Darcy Short type, seeing a McDermott type. We know what they've done in the past. Let's bring them in. They're nice and cheap. Chuck them on the bench. But realistically, are we actually going to field these players? What's the likelihood of them actually scoring enough to make them relevant to the game of Supercoach? So really, really good point that you made there, particularly around selecting players based off names, mate. Really fantastic point.
No, thank you. I've been I've been extremely guilty of that as well. And I think I'm not too sure if we'll have many warm-up games / practice matches, but they are absolutely pivotal. Absolutely pivotal because you get to see roles, you get to understand what's going on. Because someone that could have had the dream role last year, that could be blown out of the water this year. Like it's a new year. Last year's gone. For instance, I know Steinis used to open the batting, used to be an absolute superstar. Bowley's 4 overs. He used to get wickets. He used to get that run rate bonus as well, strike rate economy. But now chances are he potentially is going to be batting in the middle order and maybe bowling 1 or 2 overs.
Not good for Supercoach, is it, mate? That is not a role that we really love, is it?
No.
The importance of all rounders, I think, is massive in this game as well, because you've mentioned a couple of times, mate, that you've got almost double the chance to put some points on the board. Now, we can all field and get a lucky catch here and there, but if you know that someone's got a decent order in the batting, and they're going to roll the arm over as well, that's absolute gold for Supercoach, mate. So some like an Aaron Hardy, I love. I've always been a big fan of him. Not sure how much he's going to be bowling though. You mentioned that they've got a fantastic lineup there, so. Yeah, I'm not too sure with some of these guys, mate. As I said, I really need to do a bit of extra research myself. But having you on tonight, mate, has been absolutely phenomenal. I know that anyone that's been tuning in as well will be much better for it, mate. So thank you so much, Legend, for coming on. It was the first time I've actually got to sit down and actually have a chat with you, mate. We've been chatting on Twitter for ages and sending messages through the chat. But, mate, it was finally great to actually meet you, mate, because that's the best thing about Supercoach to me. Making new mates, forming connections, mate. And so I cannot thank you enough, mate, for coming on, and finally great to meet you, buddy.
No, it's and right back at you as well, and to Spills as well. I know he raised that Ralph point, but I think the most interesting point that I got out of tonight was that Spills keeps his toilet paper on the back of his door in that Essendon jersey. I've never seen a bloke have their toilet paper hanging up on the back of their wall. No, I'm joking. I never miss a chance to lay into Essendon supporters or
you have to, mate.
or
you
the
have to.
Carlton supporters. But no, it's been fantastic, and it's nice to actually verbalise what you're thinking sometimes. Because in theory, in your mind, you might sound like an absolute genius, but when you say something and you actually hear it, you might think, geez, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Yeah.
It always helps, mate. The big think tank, isn't it? And look, mate,
Yes.
I'd love to also have you on some stage for the AFL Supercoach as well, mate, because obviously you're right in your AFL stuff as well. We'll see what happens. We were chatting during a bit of a break before about the troubles that we may face in AFL Supercoach this year. But look, it'll be interesting. Good luck to those who make the big decisions, mate. But for now, we don't need to worry about AFL Supercoach. We've got BBL in front of us, mate. And I'm absolutely pumped for a big season, mate. Just quickly, what are your goals this year? So do you actually set yourself goals at the start of the season? So I want to finish top this, top that, or you just give it a crack and where you come sort of thing, mate?
I mean, you always want to do, better than your mates and whatnot, or if you're in cash leagues or whatever, gamble responsibly. But I guess, you just want to better last year. And well, for me personally, and just keep climbing, because a lot of BBL is absolute luck, but obviously there's got to be some kind of skill to it. Especially, when rain's around, games can get washed out, or, you might be lucky and only have 2 players in it and they're the openers and they're the only ones that get any points. So there's a lot of luck to it, but also in saying that, I think there's a lot of skill, and I think it's just about learning as well. Like it's at the end of the day, it's a fantasy sport. I mean, if you do well, you do well. If you don't, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly right, mate.
Yeah.
Just a game at the end of the day. And it's a game that we should all enjoy, mate. Don't take it too seriously. Have a bit of fun with it. And as I said, if you get a decent finish, well done. If not, then do a bit more research next year. Hope your luck's a little bit better and you can keep climbing, buddy.
Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself.
All right, well, mate, thank you very much again for coming on. I'm sure this will be the first time of many, mate. But again, tell us a little bit about your socials, mate. So where can we find you? You obviously got Twitter, mate. Is there anything else apart from Twitter if we can contact you if you want to, buddy?
Nah, honestly, not really. Like, there's a good type bunch of, well, a community on Twitter. It's fantastic with, you know, your AFL, your BBL. It's always good ripping into your favorite opposition fans, to put it nicely. It's always good to see, you know, I guess all the updates from everyone, how they're doing, you know, yeah, not just fantasy, but life as well. And I mean, there's some really good people on there, but there's also some massive fuckwits. And I mean, I'm included in that echelon of fuckwits sometimes. But I think as long as, you know, you can have a laugh at yourself, you can take a joke, and you'll be fine on there. But yeah, it's just honestly at Scoble Bryant 36 on Twitter, or X, as that weird fella Elon has changed it to.
I'll keep switching Twitter/X. Yeah. We know what you're talking about, though, mate.
There's a lot of Collingwood stuff on there, a lot of Matt Short stuff on there, a lot of abuse towards the Poms, and also a lot of abuse towards Carlton supporters, because that choke in that prelim final was absolutely beautiful. Like, that was fantastic. Got to remind them of how pathetic they are. It's all good and well. It's all good and well. But yeah, that's me. So yeah.
Good on you, Nath. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in again. We've got, I think it's about 15 days or so, mate, until the start of the BBL season. So, guys, start doing your research. Hopefully enjoyed the podcast. And as I said, this will be the first of many times that Nath will feature on the channel. So thanks very much. Good luck with your team planning, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, Nath.
See you, boys.